Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Elena Rudia and I'm a photographer. Today I will talk about smartphone photography and share some of my tips and tricks about how to make your smartphone pictures better. My friends who want to start taking better pictures, as well as some of my followers on Instagram, often ask me, what kind of camera do I use for a particular shot? And many people are convinced that you really need a very fancy DSLR or a full-frame mirrorless camera to take good pictures. And don't get me wrong, in some cases, a DSLR or a full-frame camera is really important. For example, in commercial photography, where you need really big resolution pictures, you really need like high quality pictures which you can blow big and like publish on a side of a building or on a billboard. And in this case, as in my case, like when I do my commercial shoots, like most of the time, of course, I use either a DSLR with a prime lens, or I use a mirrorless camera also with a prime lens or like with the high quality lenses attached. But whenever I'm traveling or meeting friends or just going out for a dinner, I don't usually have a DSLR or a mirrorless camera with me. In these situations, if there is a photo opportunity, I use the camera which I always have on me, and this is my smartphone. And throughout the years, I've shot thousands of pictures with my smartphones, and they were published in magazines, books, and even won awards. Some of you are using a smartphone as a second option when you don't have your camera available. Some only have smartphone to take pictures with. But in any case, I'm convinced that you can become a better photographer and a really good photographer only using your smartphone without any extra equipment or extra lenses attached. You just need to know the basics of photography, and you need to know your limitations and your abilities and the abilities of your camera. In still life, in many everyday situations, especially in street photography, smartphone is basically the best camera you can have. You carry it around with you on all occasions. It is light, it is easy to carry around, and it doesn't attract attention of people if you're in a crowded place. So yeah, it is definitely a great camera to have. I mostly use automatic mode in my smartphone because I strongly believe that spontaneity is key in smartphone photography, especially if you're shooting on the street or you're traveling and you just see a photo opportunity. The only thing you need is like to get out your phone quick and shoot. So for those of you who actually don't have extra features or many extra features in your phone, like don't worry, I will just try to give you the basic smartphone tips available without using extra features of a particular phone. The first advice I give to every person is wipe your camera. I know this sounds super basic, but so many people just forget to do it on an everyday basis. I gave my phone, my old phone, to my mother, and a week later she came to me and she was just like, oh, the pictures are not so good, probably the camera is already old and like the smartphone is old. And of course, we looked at her camera of her phone, and it was all smudged and like she had fingerprints all over it. She didn't really like wipe it. So this is why her pictures came out all blurry and not very good. And I know it sounds funny, but like that's what I also forget to do sometimes. And then I'm just thinking, oh, if I'm shooting against the light, then the pictures come out like funny. And you can always use like a special cloth with which you wipe your glasses, for example, or sunglasses. But in my case, very often I just use my t-shirt or just my sweater to wipe it off quickly. Just be careful with different metallic threads because they can scratch the camera lens. The same goes for like woolen clothes. They can sometimes scratch the lens, so be careful. But most cases, just a cotton t-shirt would do. My tip number 2 is avoid low light situations. Many smartphones nowadays, of course, can also shoot in low light, but in many cases, smartphones just don't have sensors sensitive enough and big enough to capture low light scenes. So I would suggest shooting either on overcast day when you have an even light, no shadow and light play. It's usually easy. Also, if you're shooting in automatic mode, it's really easy just to capture the scene, like just snap a shot. That's all good. I personally prefer shooting during the golden hour, which is basically a few hours after the sunrise or 3-4 hours before sunset. It's this beautiful golden light, warm light, which you're getting, and it's great for shooting portraits or great for shooting also urban photographs. Also, if you really want to shoot a night scene, I suggest not doing it when the sky is pitch black, but do it during so-called blue hour, which is basically a time, maybe an hour, maybe 30-40 minutes after the sunset. So when the sky is not red anymore, but it's like this deep blue color, but there's still some kind of light in it. And usually at that time, the city lights already come up, so you actually have this nice contrast, and the sky really is blue, so you have these beautiful colors as well, and that's when you can get your so-called like night shot. Tip number 3, learn basic composition. If you're shooting for Instagram, the easiest composition would be, of course, central. It looks very Instagrammable, it's likable, it's very easy to basically compose. You're just putting a subject matter or a person in the middle of your shot. But if you want to learn and become a better photographer, you should probably look into the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is basically when you're dividing your imaginable picture into 9 equal squares with the grid lines, and then you put a subject matter or your model on the intersection on those grid lines. You can always use the pre-installed grid line option on your phone. I personally don't use that anymore because after years and years of shooting, I'm of course already like trained and my eye is trained to see the composition and what looks best. But in the beginning, it's always helpful to have that grid line on, and after a while you also practice enough to just see the composition and what is best for yourself, and you can just switch that option off. Composition also means sometimes looking for some negative space that is also connected to the rule of thirds. In many cases, the dimensions are better seen when you go a little bit further and give it some space and show the surroundings around your model, for example. So in this case, I would put a model or the thing you're photographing in the lower third of a picture, giving 2/3 to that negative space. If you're shooting in an urban environment, then I suggest looking for geometry around you. It looks really good with smartphone photography. So look for leading lines, for curves, repetition, diagonal movement. This all looks really good and it creates a more dynamic and interesting shot. The next tip would be to avoid busy backgrounds and layerings. The truth is that smartphone photography does not really transfer the depth of field so well. And that's why if you shoot, for example, a person in front of a busy background, like a busy street, it will end up distracting and taking focus of your model and the picture will appear flat. Unless you're using special features where in some phones they kind of blur the background artificially. This is also a helpful one sometimes, but in most cases in simple phones you just don't have that feature and you'll end up with a really not nice image, which is too busy and too all over the place. So I would suggest if you're shooting portraits, place a person in front of a wall, a minimalistic composition, minimalistic background. If you're shooting still life, then probably do a flat lay. That always looks good with a smartphone. Minimalistic background doesn't mean they have to be boring. So look for a crack in the walls, for textures and patterns of the backgrounds. That is always a good training and a good exercise. And if you want to accentuate your portraits, probably look for some floral textures as well. Generally train your eye to see beauty, symmetry, geometry, floral patterns, textures. All these things can really work well into your favor. Generally, I advise against using manual controls because in my opinion, it defies the whole purpose of smartphone photography to take a picture as quick as possible when you see a photo opportunity. But if you know what you're doing, then go for it in case your phone has that feature. The same goes about using any kind of an external attachable lenses. I really believe it ruins the whole purpose of smartphone photography, which is ease and accessibility. And the last tip, but not the least, is don't zoom. 99% of all smartphone camera zooms are digital, and that only means that whenever you zoom, you're ruining your picture by cropping it and by reducing its quality. Famous photographer Robert Capa once said that if your pictures are not good enough, then you are not close enough. And he meant it both literally and figuratively. That means if you want a better picture, probably come closer to your subject emotionally and also physically. So these were the basic tips which I personally find very helpful for smartphone photography. I didn't touch the topic of editing because I really believe that less is more and you should learn the basics first. But if you would like me to do a video on smartphone editing, then let me know in the comments. You can ask me whatever you want in the comments as well, and I will try to answer your questions as well as get an idea on what kind of videos and tutorials you're expecting from me in the future. Meanwhile, if you like this tutorial, please like and subscribe, and I really hope to see you in the future. Bye!